think we're working. I think we're working. I think we're cooking. There we go. There we go. What up, Jake? What up, Jake? Welcome back to HI Picks. Today we are exposing Kamaru Usman's title reign before y'all get triggered. This isn't a knock on Kamaru Usman. This is simply bringing to light some things that most people will not bring into light, and exposing the welterweight division more so anything about Usman. That's really what it is. How we doing, Jake? You're the CEO of EPO, or is that you from TikTok? Appreciate it. Appreciate you jumping in here, my guy. I wanted to make this a live stream though, because I know a lot of people were upset about this in the Instagram reels and the TikTok that set a lot of people on fire. And if they want to come in here and talk about it, they can. And I want to make this a longer form so I can really dive into it and bring to light what people are missing here. I think people are missing a lot of stuff. So what I'm about to say is completely factual, objectively facts. This isn't my opinion. If I give my opinion, I'll let you know. But what I'm saying is strictly facts. That you can do whatever you want. If you don't like the facts, they're facts. There's nothing that you can do about it. I will start it off with an interesting statistic. So, the three people that Kamaru Usman has fought and beaten during his title reign, he's had 5 defenses. The 3 people he's fought and beaten: Colby Covington, George Masvidal, and Gilbert Burns. Now, between those 3 fighters, they hold a whopping 1 win against the current top 10 welterweights in their entire career. So between Burns, Masvidal, Colby, they combine for 1 win between the entire welterweight top 10. And that 1 win, Gilbert Burns over Stephen Thompson. Do with that what you will. To me, not very impressive. It really just shows you the welterweight division doesn't fight each other, especially the guys that are getting the title shots. They don't fight anybody else. And that is a big reason why Kamaru Usman has had to fight Colby Covington twice, George Masvidal twice, and now Leon Edwards twice. Even though he lost, it's warranted. But yeah, 1 win inside the current top 10 welterweights. And within the past 5 years, Gilbert Burns has fought 3 ranked opponents, and Masvidal has fought 1. Colby Covington has fought 1. And that one person that they fought, Colby fought Masvidal, and Masvidal fought Colby. Those are the only guys that they fought inside the rankings. Not won, just fought. Gilbert Burns, look at who he's fought in the rankings: Khamzat Chimaev, Stephen Thompson, and Neil Magny. So he beat 2 of them within the rankings and lost to Chimaev. But at least he's fighting guys. The big exposing here is Colby Covington and George Masvidal. They just simply don't fight each other. So let's get into things, because I know people were getting pissed when I was talking about Tyron Woodley. I'm not saying Tyron didn't have, Tyron was that guy. Tyron was that guy until Kamaru Usman came along, and then Tyron Woodley was pretty much nothing. Pretty much nothing. And if you look at who he beat while he was champion, Tyron Woodley in this case, that wins don't age well. They don't age that well, especially the one he had before he beat Kamaru against Darren Till, who seemed like the next big thing at the time, and it seemed like a big win at the time for Tyron Woodley. Turns out, not really the next big thing, and it turns out he cannot wrestle. So, Kamaru Usman beats Tyron Woodley, and Tyron Woodley is 36 years old. Since then, he has not gotten a win in any kind of combat sport. So all of his fights after that in the UFC, losses, all of his boxing matches outside of the cage against Jake Paul. Losses. Had that win against Darren Till. Good win. At the time, doesn't age well. Darren Till 1-4 in his last 5. Now not really with the UFC. Damian Maia. Decision win in 2017 as the champion. We're talking about Tyron Woodley right now. Beats Damian Maia in 2017. Damian Maia doesn't offer much on the feet. And, Tyron Woodley exposed that. He knew he didn't really want to go to the ground too much with Damian Maia, but probably have the striking advantage or good enough striking advantage to get that win. And then the majority decision win against Stephen Thompson, who he had just before that fought to a draw. So another close fight with Stephen Thompson. Stephen Thompson hasn't done well with wrestlers his entire career. I'm surprised that was even a majority decision. And after that, Stephen Thompson fought Bilal Muhammad, Gilbert Burns. Didn't beat either of those guys because he couldn't fight wrestlers. Jake in the chat. Colby fought nothing but top 5 ranked fighters the last 4 to 5 years. Dana literally, in the last press conference, said Colby was ready to go. He said Colby had literally said yes to every single opponent they've offered him. That includes Hamzat, who Colby said yes to. Hamzat couldn't make the fight. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that, but I'm simply bringing up facts. I'm not saying who he would agree to fight or not. I'm simply saying he hasn't fought anybody inside the top 10. I would love to see Colby versus Bilal. I think that would be a pretty good fight. And the boy Bilal has been fighting dudes. He's been fighting dudes. But let's get back on track here. So, beats Tyron Woodley pretty much at Woodley's end. He caught him at the end. Woodley didn't win a single fight after that. A good performance for Usman. Really showed that he's as dominant. I mean, if you look at Usman and Woodley, they're pretty similar fighters. And Usman just showed that he was the better guy at that style. So, he gets the win against Tyron Woodley. What's next for Kamaru Usman? Well, Kamaru Usman, who do you need to fight next? Well, we have this guy, Colby Covington. You must be a Colby Covington fan, Jake. You must be a Colby Covington fan. And I like Colby. But I can't really say he's too deserving of his title shots, because who did he fight to get the title shot, the first title shot against Kamaru Usman? Big Colby fan, I see that. Who did he fight to get the title shot against Kamaru Usman the first time? He beat Robbie Lawler. Well, Robbie Lawler was on a 2-fight losing streak at the time. Colby Covington makes easy work of him. I don't know how you get a title shot off of that. I'm sorry, but I don't know how you get a title shot off a guy who had lost 2 fights in a row. Probably because he's a great entertainer, which I love watching him entertain people. I love the back and forth he has with people, but at the same time, you beat a guy who is on a 2-fight losing streak, and somehow that sets you up to fight the champion of the welterweight division. Interesting. For Usman, that fight was insane. It was a crazy pace. Usman gets the finish in round 5. But overall, a fun fight to watch. But Usman showed there's all that controversy, especially with you being a Colby fan. You're probably going to be, say, the nut shot and all that stuff. He beat RDA for the interim belt. And then it was Robbie Lawler after that. To get he beat RDA for the interim belt, and then Robbie Lawler after that. Then gets the title shot against Kamaru Usman, loses. Okay, then what is next for Kamaru Usman? Well, Gilbert Burns looks like he could be a real problem. They schedule him against Gilbert Burns in 2020. July of 2020, Gilbert Burns has to pull out because of COVID. Man, who's going to step in? Well, George Masvidal's on a little bit of a win streak, 3-fight win streak. We'll put him in there on short notice. And Kamaru Usman 50-45s him. 50-45s George Masvidal. So then let's look at who George Masvidal beat to get to that title shot. Well, I mentioned he had that 3-fight win streak. To start off that win streak, he fought and knocked out Darren Till, who we talked about earlier. Anything after that Tyron Woodley fight doesn't look like anything good. It's nothing anything good. He went 1-4 after that fight. That was the decline for Darren Till. And then knocks out Ben Askren via the flying knee, which is impressive. One of the best knockouts of all time. A really fun knockout to watch. But at the same time, that's kind of George Masvidal's test against this wrestler who could put him in positions that he doesn't want to be in. Ultimately avoids that with the flying knee. Beautiful, calculated, 100% fun to watch, and a good knockout. And then he fights Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is a beast. He's always game. But 34 people have tried to fight him, and 13 people have beaten him. So he's beatable. He is beatable. And at that point, we all know if you hit Nate Diaz, he's going to be bleeding very quickly. And that fight gets stopped via doctor stoppage because of the cut. George Masvidal gets the win. So, if you beat Nate Diaz, Ben Askren, and Darren Till, you deserve a title shot. You deserve a title shot. Interesting. I get it was late notice. It wasn't the real opponent that Usman was supposed to be facing, but he gets thrown in there and loses 50-45 against Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman, dominant wrestler. Gonna make easy work against a guy who can't wrestle in George Masvidal. We've even seen it as of recently when George fought Colby. Still can't wrestle. If he can't wrestle now, he couldn't wrestle, 2 years ago. So, 2 or 3 years ago. So, what do you expect there? What do you expect? You know what I'm saying? We'll check with Jake in the chat. He had a crazy close fight with Usman, who destroyed everyone else besides Colby. He beat RDA. Then he beats literally the last champion with Woodley. Then Colby, again, has a razor-close fight with Usman, with Colby winning. I agree. Usman, yeah. Masvidal, I think Masvidal is one of the most overrated fighters in the UFC. I don't even know how he's getting this fight with Gilbert Burns. He's ranked like number 11th. Gilbert Burns, just knows it's going to be light work. That's why he's taking it. He's going to get a good paycheck against a guy who he knows he can beat and get a win over a big name. And maybe that'll propel him to a title shot because that seems like that's all you need to do. Jake just doesn't agree with the Colby shade. Well, Jake, I'm not even throwing shade. I'm simply bringing up facts, brother. Simply bringing up facts. That's all I'm saying. All right, so where are we? Usman just beats Masvidal for the first time. So what's next for Usman? Probably fight the guy you were supposed to fight in Gilbert Burns. He does just that in February of 2021. I think Gilbert Burns is the best win under Kamaru Usman's belt. Gilbert Burns has a great first round, knocks him or cracks him a little bit. Doesn't knock him down, but cracks him. Shows he somewhat belonged in there, but then after that, it was just Usman, jab, jab, jab. And Usman looked like a bigger guy in there. It was a good win for Usman. I will give him that. But then, once again, we have to look and see who Gilbert Burns proved himself to get to the title shot. Well, Tyron Woodley, once again, this is Tyron Woodley after he lost to Usman. We know Usman took something out of Tyron Woodley in that fight, and Tyron Woodley never won a fight after that. So Tyron Woodley faces Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns gets it done. 5-round fight there. Gets a unanimous decision win. Dominant win. That propels him to the title shot against Kamaru Usman. Somewhat fair. Somewhat fair. Then the win before that, Damian Maia. We all know Damian Maia doesn't offer much on the feet. Gilbert Burns takes advantage of that, knocks him out in round 1. So those are his 2 wins in 2020 to earn him the title shot in 2021. I will just leave that at that. It's not terrible. It's not terrible, but it's not necessarily that impressive. Yeah, Usman did melt him. He melted him. Yeah, right. Yep. Burns beat Woodley to get the title shot. 100%. All right, so then what's next? Then what's next for Usman? After he beats Burns, who is there to fight? Well, let's just think about this, right? Out of the 3 guys he beat, if you were going to rematch him against anybody, would you really rematch him against the guy who he beat 50-45 for 5 rounds? He beat the guy for 5 rounds. Would you really match him up against a guy like that he already dominated? Probably not. But this guy's name is George Masvidal, and for some reason, that holds a lot of value to the viewers. And surely you may think George Masvidal must have gotten at least 1 win. He must have gotten at least 1 good win to prove himself once again that he deserves this title shot. Maybe even 2. Maybe even 2. But no, actually, he didn't fight a single time. Not only did he not win a single fight, he didn't fight once between his fight with Kamaru Usman the first time and the second time. So what do we think is going to happen? Kamaru Usman literally just dominated him for 5 rounds. This is where I think the padding of the record starts. And it's not at the fault of Kamaru Usman. I mean, if I'm Usman and they offer me George Masvidal, I'm taking it. I'm taking it 100%. I just beat this guy 50-45 for 5 rounds. I can go in there and know I'm going to beat this guy pretty damn easily, get another title defense, get another fat paycheck. George Masvidal has a lot of viewers that want to see him fight. I'm going to go in there and beat him up. Sure, I'll take it. But yeah, Masvidal getting that rematch was ridiculous, Jake, bro. Like, I don't know. Like, 6 days notice. Was it 6? It was a very short notice that he took the fight on. And then I think that's like their excuse. They're like, well, he only had short notice. He couldn't really prepare for this. Is he really going to get that good at wrestling in the next, 7 months? Like, I don't think so. I don't think so, man. Sorry, but he's not. Goes out there. Kamaru Usman knocks him out. Like, Kamaru Usman literally said, I can go and wrestle you whenever I want. I'm going to actually strike with you, and I'm going to knock you out. And he went out and did that. George Masvidal, I don't know how he got that title shot. I don't know. Well, I mean, I do know, but if we're talking skill level, man, he didn't do anything in between that. How can you give him that title shot? It just kind of speaks to the level of, maybe it's the welterweight division, maybe it's just whoever the promotion wants to fight him because they need the views. Usman's style isn't the most fan-friendly, but at the same time, if you keep winning, viewers will tune in, especially if you're going to throw him against a guy like Masvidal who has the viewers. This is the kind of the point at the end of the TikTok, Instagram reel that I make. It's like, okay, Usman keeps winning. He's the welterweight champion. He has a long win streak. We need some big name to put him up against to be like, well, here's a big name. Here's a guy who seems like he can't be beat. Maybe it'll happen. And it just doesn't. It just doesn't, because they're not at the level that Kamaru Usman is at. It's not Kamaru Usman's fault. It's not Usman's fault, but it doesn't really help, the magnitude of his title reign. All right, so then after knocking out George Masvidal, who's next for Kamaru Usman? Well, I mean, I will say the Colby Covington fight The first one was insane. It was insane. It was a great fight. I'm man enough to say I would have liked to see it again. I don't know if I would have liked to see it again at this point. I think probably should have proved himself a little bit more. Maybe, once we'll go over that here. So they give him Colby Covington again. What did Colby Covington do to deserve the second title shot? Well, he beats Tyron Woodley a little less than a year after he loses to Kamaru Usman in 2020. So September of 2020, he goes and beats Tyron Woodley in the 5th round, stops him. But guys, we already talked about Tyron Woodley. Was Tyron Woodley the same after the Usman fight? Definitely not. Was he the same after the Burns fight? Definitely not. So after the Usman, he lost to Usman, he lost to Burns, and then he fights Colby Covington. So once again, Colby Covington is getting a title shot after beating a guy who had lost 2 fights in a row. Interesting. That's all I got to say. It's interesting. It's simply a fact. It's not me hating. It's just a fact. He got a title shot after beating a guy who had lost 2 fights in a row. But here's another thing. He fights Tyron Woodley in September of 2020, as I said. He fights Kamaru Usman in November of 2021. So it's been a year and 2 months. Why would he fight anybody else in between that time? He definitely could have. That's a year and 2 months. 14 months. Definitely could have got one more fight in, right? But he knows he probably doesn't even need to. All he needs to do is keep talking about Kamaru Usman, and it might happen. Because everybody knows that first fight was a fun fight. There's not really anybody knocking at the door of Kamaru Usman. I'll just lay back. I'll run my mouth, and it works out for him. He gets the title shot. But once again, Usman's fighting an opponent he had already fought and an opponent he had already beaten in Colby Covington. And he goes out there and does the same thing. This fight, not as much of the pace as the first fight. Looked like both guys wanted to go in there, feel each other out a little bit. But Usman gets it done. Some would say it's controversial. Personally, I would not. 2 of the judges scored at 47-48. One of the judges scored at 46-49 for Kamaru Usman. He goes out there and gets the job done. Now, what has his opponents in those 3? What has his 3 opponents done since then? Because surely they must have done something after that. If they didn't really do much before, and then they lost to Kamaru Usman, they must have done something after that. They must be like at the top of the division. Let's take a look. Well, let's check in with Jake. He deserved the second based on the first fight and his dominant win over Woodley fight, who was the last sitting champ. Again, who deserved it more at the time, and it was a tough fight. Usman. Yeah, no, I kind of... Look, I'm not saying he should have fought somebody else. I'm simply bringing to light facts that the guys he fought don't necessarily live up to be that impressive that he beat him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not hating. Not saying Usman ducked anybody or anything like that. They just throwing the same guys at him and expecting different outcomes when those wins are pretty definitive. I get the first fight against Colby was fun to watch. A lot of people would watch it again. But at the same time, he beat him. Beat him pretty easily. The parlay. Thanks, Sadie. What was crazy was the UFC trying to say Usman was the welterweight GOAT. See, Jake? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I used to think that too. I'll be dead honest. I'm like, Kamaru Usman is the welterweight GOAT. Think going into that Leon fight. And then he loses, and I'm like, man, maybe I should look at this a little bit more. Maybe I should look at this a little bit more. And I look at it. I look at his title reign. I'm like, damn. So he really just defended it against 3 guys. And I don't really know that these guys deserve to be in there. Like, what did they do to be in there? And it's not really, it's tough to be impressed by when you really look at it, because you can look at his performances. This is where I think people lose. This is where people get in their feelings and they get all offended. They'll be like, oh, just you're a hater and like, this is a terrible take, da da da. They look at his performances, which are very impressive. Very impressive. He goes out there and dominates guys. But then you look at who he beat in those performances and what those fighters did to get in that position. It's not impressive. It's not impressive at all. It's pretty nuts. Yes, the parlay. It's not Usman's fault. They weren't super tough comp. I mean, like how long have we been calling for? I don't know. I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough because you want to see these up-and-comers come fight Kamaru, but at the same time, they're not fighting each other so that they can fight Kamaru. So then Kamaru just has to fight guys that he has already fought. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough. But let's end this talking about what the fighters he beat as the title or in his title reign have done after that. We'll start with Colby Covington. Beats George Masvidal. Okay. That's his only win after that. Okay. We all know George cannot wrestle. What did George Masvidal do? Lost to Colby Covington. Got dominated. So, there we go. The two of the guys that he beat only fought each other, and the wrestler won. There's that. Gilbert Burns, what has Gilbert Burns done? He beat Stephen Thompson. Pretty solid win. But at the same time, it wasn't super impressive. I mean, we all know Stephen Thompson can't. It's not that he can't like wrestle, but he just, if you wrestle him, that's how you beat him. That's the blueprint. Most people know that. Beats Stephen Thompson, loses to Khamzat Chimaev. Hats off to him for taking that fight. And it was a close fight, a war, but a loss at none of that. And then beats Neil Magny, who Neil Magny is ranked number 12 right now. That's where he sat for the past like 20 years. So that's his title reign. That is his title reign right there. Just 3 guys. That's all it is. It's pretty nuts. Let's check in with Jake. Khamzat isn't making 170. Yeah, I agree. He's probably not. No, I know. Jake, yeah. If you look at who Edwards beat, look, this isn't even. I know the title is exposing Kamaru Usman title reign, but that's how you get people to tune in. But the welterweight division, man, like we just exposed who Colby fought. We just exposed who Masvidal fought. And if you look at Leon's not much better. Let's take a look at him. Because who did Leon fight to get the title shot? Nate Diaz. He beat Nate Diaz to get a title shot. I'm like, what the fuck is this, man? Is that all it takes? You just need to beat Nate Diaz? It's like they're giving, and then they try to give Khamzat the Nate Diaz treatment. It's like they really started using Nate as like the gatekeeper to the title, which was crazy because Nate wasn't even ranked. Nate's not even ranked, and they're using that as the title eliminator, or not even the title eliminator, just if you beat this guy, you get a title. They're using an unranked guy who's, I don't want to say on the cusp of retirement, but way past his prime, as the measurement to be like, are you ready for a title? I'll give you Nate Diaz. And if you beat him, only 13 people have beaten him. You can be the 14th and you'll get a title shot. Very interesting there. But yeah, let's look at Leon real quick. Beats Nate Diaz. Was supposed to fight Khamzat. And then that fight got canceled a bunch of times because of COVID and everything. Eye pokes Bilal, who stepped in for Khamzat. And then was supposed to fight Tyron around this time in 2020. That fight got canceled because of COVID. So, yeah, he almost lost to Diaz too. I mean, I wouldn't want to say that. He got cracked by Diaz. If Diaz jumps on him there, you definitely could have got finished. Yeah, no, I agree, Jake. They were definitely using Nate as the guy to like promote the next title shot, like to the next title challenger. 100%, 100%. And I don't even know if I want to say it worked. Kind of worked. But in the end, not with Khamzat, because Khamzat missed weight. Imagine if Khamzat makes weight, beats Nate Diaz, and then gets a title shot. It'd be twice in a row. It's pretty nuts. But it seems like they used Tyron Woodley as the measurement for are you ready to get a title shot after he lost to Usman, which is fair, but it turns out it's not really not going to work out like that well. You know, like if you beat Tyron was like 37, 38 years old when Gilbert beat him, when Colby beat him. When Kamaru beat him, he was 36. So it used to be if you beat Tyron, you get a title shot, and then it turned into if you beat Nate, you get a title shot. So it's pretty obvious in the welterweight division, if you just have to beat this guy who's kind of on his way out the door, and then you get a title shot. That is the entire point of the video. The guys that Kamaru Usman beat in his title reign are not that impressive for the fact that they haven't beaten anybody that's that impressive. If you got any more questions, we can go over them now. And otherwise, we'll wrap up this live stream because this is the second time I've done it. Damn, sound didn't work on the first one. But I appreciate you jumping in here, Jake, in the parlay. I'm excited for the fights this weekend, but some tells me Usman could be close to retirement. What are my thoughts on Bo Nickel? I'm super excited for him, but at the same time, I know it's tough to judge just how good he'll be. They need to keep giving him fights like Jamie Pickett. I think he could be an absolute stud. Don't get me wrong. But that wrestling is the greatest weapon that you can have in mixed martial arts, in my opinion. It's like we just saw Marab use his wrestling, chain wrestling cardio. I don't think anybody could stop that. And you look at Bo Nickel, one of the best wrestlers in the history to ever do it. Goes in there, subs Jamie Pickett in 3 minutes. Makes it look fairly easy. There's that nut shot thing, but I don't think that fight plays out any other way. But then you look at like the stand-up. We haven't really seen much of his stand-up, so it's really tough to judge. Like, how long can he just go in there, keep wrestling guys and submitting them? That's really what I'm interested to see. How long can he keep that up? Especially as he moves up the ranks. I think they need to give him probably 3 or 4 more fights, not fringe ranking type guys, but guys that might be on their way out or just not really high on going in type stuff. But there's not going to be a lot of people sign. I know he just got signed to fight Trayshawn Gore, but I don't see a lot of guys that need a win, like wanting to sign up to fight Bo Nickel because they kind of know they're probably gonna lose. And it's not really like a style that's fun to fight against. A guy that just wants to wrestle you, unless you're some BJJ guy that thinks you could take him, another wrestler that thinks he could take him. It's not really a fun style to go against if you're a striker. If you're like, oh, I got great takedown defense, and I really want to showcase it. Nobody's really doing that. So interesting stuff, man. Yeah, he knocked a couple guys out. But I mean, you look at his fight time in the cage. He's 4-0 now. It's like less than 5 minutes. It's like 5 minutes in total. Yeah, no. I don't know if they had to pay Pickett extra to fight Bo. It might just they might have. They might have, yeah. It might have been because he was on the main card though. Just you get paid more. But shit, I mean, if you know it's like your last fight on your contract and you're probably going to get cut, sure, I'll sign me up to fight Bo. What's the shame in losing to that, you know? There's no shame. Yeah, I agree. All right, Jake. And the rest of the viewers, we're going to hop off here and close this out. Appreciate y'all for joining. If you haven't yet, drop a sub to support the channel. I'm going to try to do a lot more of these, and maybe we'll get a little watch party going for the UFC events on the weekends. Other than that, you can follow me on HJ Picks on all the medias. That's probably where you got this one, but appreciate y'all. Till the next live or the next video, HJ Picks signing off.